The film begins in the year 2257 AD, in the colony of the planet New World. Todd is walking into a secluded forest with his dog Manchi, and hunts a crawler for him to eat. In this world, the colonists have been afflicted with a condition called noise, which causes everyone to see and hear each other's thoughts. Todd hears the thoughts of a preacher named Aaron, and tries to hide his disdain for the church by distracting his thoughts, but Aaron overhears him. Aaron confronts Todd and tells him to not hide his thoughts, calling him a weak orphan and comparing him to a woman. But Todd doesn't know what a woman looks like since the native humanoid species called the Spackle killed all the female colonists. Only half the male population survived. Aaron punches him and leaves. Todd returns to Prentisstown, where Davy, returned from a hunting expedition, tries to taunt him. Todd scares him off his horse by imagining a snake. When Davy and Todd are about to fight, the town's mayor and Davy's father, David Prentice, intervenes, and Todd begins to conceal his thoughts. Prentice is impressed by Todd's snake technique and offers to take him with the Spackle Patrol. Todd returns to his farm, where he lives with his adoptive fathers, Ben Moore and Cillian Boyd. During lunch, they ask Todd about his day, but overhear his thoughts about the day's incident with Davy. They warn him not to trust the mayor, as he's not their friend. Todd thinks the mayor at least acknowledges him, and an argument within their thoughts ensues, which ends with the fathers telling Todd to accompany them on the field tomorrow. Todd is recalling a memory of the mayor gifting him a knife on his birthday when he was a child. The mayor then gives him a lecture on how to tame his surroundings and hunt to survive. Prentice also tells him how he learned to control his noise, making his thoughts difficult to see and hear. Meanwhile, a spaceship that lost contact with the first colony appears near the New World and launches a scout ship to investigate the planet. As they penetrate the atmosphere, their thoughts begin to appear in the form of noise, which frightens the crew. A fire erupts in the scout ship, which causes it to crash, leaving only one woman survivor. Todd is working on his farm when Cillian tells him to fix the panels. While fixing, he discovers someone in an orange jacket stealing something and chases the thief, only to come across the crash site. He goes through the wreckage, calling out for any survivors. When he comes across graves, he goes to inform the mayor. Back in town, he tries to keep quiet before informing the mayor, but the other men hear and see his thoughts about the crashed ship. He takes them to investigate the crash scene, but finds no survivors. When the mayor asks about the survivor's description, Todd says he couldn't see his face, but he had no noise. The mayor discerns that it's a woman and tells his crew to find her, which excites Todd. He comes across her stuff behind the crashed ship and meets Viola, the ship's only survivor. He is shocked to see a girl, as he has never seen one before. While he calls her out, his noise alerts the other men, who start chasing her on horses. They corner her behind a manifestation of a circle made out of wood and capture Viola, and she is brought to the mayor's home. The villagers speculate about the second wave of colonists. Prentice informs her about the crash and her being the only survivor, and questions about where she came from. He tells her about the noise, and how some of them can control it. He also tells her about the war with the Spackle, and how they slaughtered all their women. She tells him that she's part of a scouting ship sent to investigate the first colonists, and there's a ship of 4,000 crew waiting in space, which will land on the plane. When Prentice is about to ask more questions, commotion from outside distracts them. Prentice leaves to go speak to the men and leaves Davy in charge of keeping an eye on her. Though Prentice warns Davy not to interact with Viola, Davy plays with one of Viola's gadgets, which causes it to shoot large holes in the walls. Viola takes this opportunity to escape. During her escape, Viola overhears the priest's thoughts, thinking that she is an angel sent from heaven to bring judgment. But Prentice tells him that she's not an angel, but a girl. He further discusses his plans to prevent her from contacting the colony's mothership, intercepting their landing, killing them while they are still under cryosleep, and using the ship to escape from their exile. As the village runs to pursue her, Todd questions why she's so important. He goes inside to observe the wreck, and takes Viola's bag before returning to his farm. He enters the barn to browse through her bag, when he's distracted by Manchi's voice, and finds Viola hiding in his family's barn. Todd warns her not to come out since men are looking for her, and goes out to meet his fathers. Todd tries to hide his noise and goes to occupy himself with his chores when one of Prentice's men arrives looking for Viola. They tell her no one's been around, and when the man tries to take a look around, they send him off, suspecting from Todd's behavior that she's actually in the barn. Todd takes them inside to show her, and Ben tells her to calm down. They go out to discuss, while Viola looks for opportunities to escape. Ben and Cillian try to convince Todd to return Viola to the mayor, but Todd is adamant about protecting her. They eventually give in, and Ben tells Todd about another settlement called Farbranch and says Viola will be safe there. They prepare him for the ride but warn him not to mention in Farbranch that he's from Prentisstown, and stay with the girl at all times, meaning he cannot return to Prentisstown. As they prepare, Prentice with his men appears at their farm, suspecting them to be hiding the girl. He asks Ben and Cillian, who both deny it, concealing their thoughts by thinking about daily chores. Meanwhile, Viola tries to kickstart their motorcycle in the barn. When Prentice interrogates Todd, Todd tries to conceal his thoughts, but eventually thinks about the barn. As the men open the gate, Viola escapes on the motorcycle. When one of the men lifts his gun, Todd brings him down. Another is shot down by Cillian, who is shot by Davy. As Ben grieves Cillian, he tells Todd to run. Prentice and his men launch in pursuit of Todd and Viola. Todd calls Viola out, while the two dodge projectile weapons. They eventually reach a cliff from which both Todd and Viola jump, while the pursuing men stop at the edge. Viola is thrown from the motorcycle, and Todd's horse breaks its leg. Todd ends the horse's suffering with a knife, and catches up to Viola, who is terrified of Todd, and tells him to not touch her. Todd is taken aback by the pitch of her voice, and questions whether this entire thing was a mistake, and he should take her back to Prentice. He's eventually convinced and convinces Viola to journey to Far Branch. Back at the barn, Prentice tries to convince Ben to accompany him on his pursuit. Ben refuses to hunt his son, but Prentice presses him, saying he does not want to hurt Todd. During the interrogation, Ben unwittingly thinks of Far Branch, which gives Prentice his clue. As he leaves, the last of Cillian's thoughts beg Ben to keep Todd safe. During their journey, Todd eventually gets tired and pleads with Viola to slow down. When they stop, they hear rustling in the forests, but it's Todd's dog Manchi who tracked them down. Prentice's men scavenge the ship for batteries. They gather weapons to pursue Todd to Far Branch. Near a lake, Todd undresses himself in front of Viola without any hesitation to hunt for food, which shocks Viola. As they eat, Viola reveals that whatever she's eaten before was created in labs, since she's never been to Earth, and was born on the ship. Her grandparents were from Earth, and left the Earth 64 years ago, in hopes of a better place to live. When he asks about her parents, Viola refuses to answer and continues walking. Todd is irritated by her ability to keep secrets. Meanwhile, Prentice's men cut a path through the forest in pursuit. Todd shows Viola the noise from a spackle, and they change their path. When Todd calls the spackle an alien, Viola reminds him that humans are the actual aliens since they are not native species on this planet. But Todd disagrees. When it starts to rain, Todd and Viola make a camp to hide from raindrops, which surprises Viola since she's never seen rain before. Viola reveals to Todd that her parents died during the journey from Earth to the New World. They both bond over their loneliness, and Todd imagines himself sharing a kiss with Viola before his imagination is interrupted by Viola, who is revolted by it. Todd, embarrassed, goes out of the camp to sit in the rain. The rain stops, and the sun reappears. Viola wakes Todd up from deep sleep and reveals to him her name. Todd likes it and keeps repeating it in his thoughts. They unintentionally come across a spackle village, and Todd immediately takes Viola and Manchi away from it. But a spackle appears out of a lake, which shocks them both, and they try to conceal themselves behind a bush, but Todd's noise gives away their location. The spackle attacks Todd, who fights back, but it cannot find Manchi or Viola. When the spackle gets distracted, Todd attempts to kill it with a knife in self-defense, but Viola stops him, arguing it does not appear to be dangerous. When Todd tells Viola about how Prentice taught him that the spackle killed all of their women, Viola reminds him not to believe everything Prentice says. They eventually come across a farm full of sheep, and a prosperous town in the background. There are grape farms, tools, and even a helipad, but no person in sight. As they look around, another dog appears, and a little girl. The town is Far Branch, inhabited by men, women, and children, and a thriving community whose mayor is also a woman. All of this surprises Todd. When the mayor asks them where they're from, Viola unknowingly mentions Prentice Town, which angers the town. The townsmen tie Todd's hands, and he awaits his sentence outside the mayor's office. When some townsmen come to threaten Todd, the mayor intervenes, arguing that their law to hang anyone from Prentice Town does not apply to boys. And one of the townsmen, Matthew himself, came from Prentice Town and lives in Far Branch. She dismisses the gang and promises to keep Todd with her, to keep a watch on him. Meanwhile, the men from Prentice Town gather their camp to launch fresh pursuit, urged by Prentice, who tells them that the ship will descend at any moment. The priest, meanwhile, scares the men with his noise, which repeatedly mentions judgment. Prentice tells him to control the noise since it scares the men, but the priest replies that this is a gift, since it reveals the truth and gives men their judgment. The mayor offers Viola and Todd rooms and tells them to take a shower. Todd, surprised at the warm running water, plunges into the bathtub with his clothes on. Viola mentions to the mayor that she needs to contact her ship, which will land any day now since she hasn't communicated back. But the mayor reveals that their settlement is a church settlement, and they have no communicators even to communicate with other settlements. But she reveals that there is a communicator at Haven, which is one of the first settlements on the New Earth. This information shocks Todd. Todd unconsciously imagines Viola asking him to kiss her, which disgusts Viola, and the mayor takes him to the men's room, where another man sleeps with loud thoughts. Back at the camp, as men prepare to invade Farbranch, Aaron the priest decides to sacrifice Viola to the noise. When Prentiss tries to stop him, he rides away, prompting the men to chase him. Unable to sleep, Todd finds his mother's diary in his bag, placed by Ben for him to find. He goes to Viola's room, who can't sleep either, and reveals to her how his mother died when he was a baby, but he cannot read her journal because he doesn't know how to read. Aaron burned all the books in town, considering the noise to be enough education. Viola offers to read it for him. It has his mother Carissa's initials, KH, on the cover. In the first pages, his mother talks about how Todd's birth gave her hope after the death of his father, and Todd imagines the scene with tears. She talks about how Prentiss founded their settlement to get away from the noise of so many settlers, but Prentiss's ability to keep his thoughts a secret and Aaron's fundamentalism unnerved people. Moreover, the men could not hear the women. The diary ends abruptly, insinuating that the women were not killed by the native aliens, but by Prentiss and the men of Prentisstown, who could not stand not knowing the thoughts of the women when they could hear theirs, which drove them to insanity, further exacerbated by Aaron's urging that women don't have noise since they do not have a soul. Todd has a mental breakdown with this revelation, as he imagines what would have happened, and the noise surrounds him. He runs out of the room, promising vengeance. Prentiss and his men arrive, and they are detected by their noise. A siren blares at Farbranch as men ride on horses. Men and women arm themselves while evacuating the weak and children. Prentiss and the mayor meet, and Prentiss demands Viola, but the mayor refuses to hand over any woman to men from Prentisstown. Prentiss tells her that Viola is a spy from the new ship, which is planning to invade New Earth. Matthew accuses Prentiss of lying and aims a shotgun at him, but he's taken down by a Prentisstown man whose weapon incinerates him. A man knocks on Viola's door, claiming to have been sent by Mayor Hildy to put her guard down, but his noise reveals him as Prentiss's man, and the two begin to struggle. Meanwhile, Prentiss manages to manipulate the people of Farbranch into believing that they don't stand a chance against him, and they begin to drop their weapons. Todd returns to Viola's room and finds the invader tied down as Viola prepares her escape. The two join forces. As they escape, they are spotted by Aaron, who begins to chase them. They hide in a barn, where a woman from Farbranch holds the two at gunpoint and starts shooting, alerting the rest of the men. Prentiss gives Ben one last chance to save Todd by sending him inside the barn. As Ben and Todd hug, Ben tries to get Todd to surrender Viola, but Todd reveals that he read the journal and is upset with him for lying. But Ben reveals that they couldn't do anything against Prentiss's men, and the most they could do was protect him. They kept things hidden from him for his own sake. They agree on a plan. Ben uses his noise to create an image of Viola to distract Prentiss and his men, while Todd and Viola escape. As Prentiss tries to talk to Viola, the noise disappears. Aaron chases after them. They come upon a stream and a boat, and as they escape, Aaron continues the pursuit in the water on his horse. They try to row faster, even going through a small waterfall, which unhorses Aaron. But Aaron continues the pursuit by swimming. He eventually reaches the boat and grabs Viola. A struggle ensues, and their boat is upended. Todd manages to swim to Viola and get her to grab the boat, but Aaron captures Manchi and drowns him. They both reach the other side safely, and Todd promises vengeance. As they walk further, they come across a tower. Climbing it, they find more towers leading towards Haven, which Viola explains were supposed to be supports for a monorail. But Todd doesn't share Viola's excitement and grieves the loss of Manchi. Viola comforts him. They eventually arrive at the ruins of the first colony ship. Going through the ruins, they see the noise of the pursuing men with Prentiss. Todd thinks about continuing to Haven, but Viola says there's no time left, and they should use the ship's emergency antenna. They descend into the ship's ruins, and Viola guides them. They find the antenna and try to send a signal to the colony ship, but the antenna is damaged. Viola is disappointed, but Todd offers to climb and repair it. Prentiss and his men arrive and find the duo inside. They surround the ship. Todd makes the dangerous climb and manages to fix the antenna, but Aaron ambushes Viola before a message can be sent. Prentiss is holding Ben hostage and asks Ben to surrender himself. Aaron, who regrets his sin of killing off all the women, asks Viola to kill him to purify him of his sins. Viola manages to fend him off by setting him on fire. Todd surrenders himself, but Prentiss asks about Viola. When Todd refuses to submit her, Prentiss shoots Ben. Todd runs to him to comfort him. Ben, wounded, apologizes to Todd for not standing up to Prentiss. But unknown to Prentiss, who still urges Todd to hand over Viola, Ben gives him a knife. Todd engages Prentiss, launching a surprise attack before being kicked off by Prentiss, who shoots at him. Wounded, Todd manages to hide, and a message is sent to the ship in space. Todd tries to hide himself, but his noise reveals his position to Prentiss, who pursues him with a gun. He uses illusions of himself to distract Todd out of his hiding and corners him. Just as he is about to kill Todd, Todd uses illusions of his mother and other women, calling Prentiss a coward. Taking advantage of the distraction, Viola pushes Prentiss off the cliff ledge to his death. As Todd bleeds and his vision blurs, Viola comforts him. The men on horses grow nearer, but the colony ship appears in the sky, causing Davy and the remaining Prentisstown men to flee. Todd blacks out and wakes up in the colony ship's medical room, almost fully healed. He sees Viola, who was waiting for him to come to, and reveals he's been out for days. Viola tells him she has learned to love his planet, and that her colony has decided to stay on it as the second wave, and the movie ends.